the other curious chapter in there, Steve, was that in my junior year, sometime around Christmas time or thereafter, I had a real crisis of faith. I don't remember the chronology of these two things, the conversation with Father Hindle and the crisis, but I had a moment of real crisis. Was it my junior? Was my senior year? Might have been the early part of my senior year. One of the two just had this crisis when I suddenly felt, what if none of this is true? And I'm basing my life on it. And I resigned from teaching Sunday school. I think I was involved with the youth of the parish at that point. That's so many years back, it's not clear. I resigned from everything at church and told Father Hindle that I would not be coming to church for a while. And he didn't push me. I think it was a deeper conversation, so there were questions, but my recall was he said something like, well, when it's right for you, you'll be back.
Right.
I stayed away 2 weeks. And then it was like, okay, this isn't the answer. So I began to continue to go to church, but with this puzzle in my brain. And I think it was my junior year, because then what I remember was that I decided to take a course in religion, but it was a course in the phenomenon of religion. And the very first book we were assigned was a book by Elizabeth Sewell called The Orphean Voice. And in the introduction to that book, she used the phrase, I'm going to take you on a journey, but to take you, I must use the myth of Orpheus. You must trust the myth to bear truth to make the journey. I remember it's like God got slapped on the back of my head, and I thought, there's my problem. I have to trust the biblical story to bear truth, and then I'll know where I'm to go. So it just turned the light on. It was a great course, but it was that phrase that caught me. There is another moment that was critical in all this. I mentioned that I had a fieldwork placement in a children's home.
Right.
I had a very, two afternoons a week, essentially, is what it was, from noon to 5. And I had I had 3 specific people on my caseload, plus other kind of training going on. And one of those 3 people was a teenage girl. All 3 were siblings, and they all 3 had been severely abused in the home of their origin. And the teenage girl I would meet with them regularly. I think I don't remember the rotation quite, whether it was, I think it was once every 2 weeks that I met with each of them. And the teenage girl had these questions. We would talk, but as a social worker, you have very defined areas of what you can respond to and how you respond. You're essentially trying to respond to assess the needs of this individual and where the system can reach in to meet those needs. This girl's questions struck me by my second semester that they were all religious questions. And because it was a Methodist children's home, we couldn't deal with those questions. We could simply forward them to the chaplain. But I had this real sense that they were, because they were so profound and came out of her very abused childhood. And this was a pretty fundamentalist Methodist home. But the last person she could talk to was the chaplain.
What sort of questions was she?
I can't even I can't remember anymore. But they were about why things happen and about meaning. They were basically meaning questions. They were about what her life means now. She was trying to finish high school and sort out what was next. And I don't remember them except just the sense that they were really more religious than social work, and that they were the questions I really wanted to deal with in life. And that was a push-pull. I could hear it, but I wasn't. Again, it's like, am I deluding myself? What's going on here? So while I credit her with that moment of sparking this question in me, I don't even remember her questions, and I certainly didn't sort of deal with it by saying, oh, this is what I'm